Welcome to the Beyond the Bachelor show, the show where we explore the graduate school journeys of working professionals who manage life's many responsibilities. I'm your host, Dr. Justin Grimes, and each episode offers practical insights, inspiring stories, and strategies to show you that earning an advanced degree is possible, even with a busy schedule. Today, I am joined by Dr. Wesley Walker, Assistant Director of Student Services at I'm not even gonna say this community college.
I want you to try.
Let's see here. Kankakee.
No. Kankakee.
Okay,
yeah.
We're gonna get it though. Kankakee Community College. Dr. Walker is a veteran and higher education professional. He decided to pursue his graduate degree after leaving the military in order to secure better employment. While working a few different jobs, he discovered that more education will help elevate his competitiveness in the job market. I'm looking forward to diving into his inspiring journey and insights on graduate school and growth. Dr. Walker, what do you want me to say? Because we know each other. So how you want me to refer to you throughout this interview, man?
Yeah, the Dr. Walker introduction is good, but obviously you know me as Wes, man. That's fine.
I'm gonna go with Dr. Walker, because for everybody else, in the formal capacity.
Right, I appreciate it. I'll take that. For sure.
For those listening, Dr. Walker and I are both members of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. This is my line brother, and if for anybody who has seen us, this is the one that I bicker with the most. But I got number love for my LBs, and so I'm really excited because there are a lot of people who are veterans who want to go to school or have maybe been told, like, this is all I need to do. It's the military. I'm going to advance in the military. I'm going to retire early. Maybe I do something else in my career. All the folks I know who are in the military are either like at retirement or about to retire or have recently retired. And so I'm really excited about your stuff because you decided to go a whole different path, which I find a few people go that route, which is working in education. But it's not about me telling the story. It's about, other folks hearing yours. So I'm curious, talk about from the beginning. Let's talk about your journey. So let's start with the decision, because I remember the day you told us. We were in the frat house.
You probably remember better than me. Tell me how it went down. I don't even remember how it went down.
Yeah, let's go to it. So I remember we were in the frat house. Mm-hmm. I remember it was something for Frank. I can't remember what it was. I think it was around Frank.
I joined about February, March. Yeah.
Yes, I think it was Frank. Frank was getting ready to graduate.
Okay.
Frank is our number 12. Rest in peace, Frank Watson. We truly miss you, good brother. But Frank was getting ready to graduate. I remember Frank was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, y'all. And we were all like, what? What do you mean you don't know what you're going to do next? And so he was talking to us about his, decision about what he was going to do. And you just assumed that when you reach your senior year that you know what the heck is going on and what's going to happen. And I think that's very shocking for a lot of people. It's even shocking for me. And so we were at the frat house having this conversation, and you dropped on us that you were getting ready to leave the institution and go to the military. And to offer some additional context for those of you who are listening, remember, this is right when, at the height of people going to the war in Iraq, Afghanistan. I don't think it's a time period that often us as Black folks were like, what we should do? Go join the military. And my LB West says, I'm going to go to the military. And we all were collectively like, what the hell are you thinking? Do you know what's going on? And so the decision was made. And I think it took me a couple of days. And I said, he got to make the decision that's best for him. And if that's what he decides to do, he just needs support. And I remember some folks was like, so you really support this? I was like, hey, that at the point where a person is now telling us the decision has been made. And there's generally not much we are going to say or do to shift that person's decision. They're not sharing for the sake of getting our confirmation or affirmation. They're sharing because they already made it. And so let's go back to that moment when you decided to stop undergrad. Because I don't like when people say you left. Like, no, you stopped and decided to go pursue the military. What was happening then? What kind of led you to that decision?
Well, yeah, it was a few things, and I appreciate you, using certain terminology, but I don't mind saying I dropped out because
Yeah.
I think that accurately describes, my mindset at the time. It accurately describes pretty much what happened. And that was really, really a few main reasons why I made a decision. At the time, I think, you and a lot of my friends didn't really understand. I had a lot of stuff going on. And honestly, I'm probably going to get into it today, but honestly, at the time, I didn't really feel comfortable telling everybody my business, right? So it was a personal decision. I had a lot of stuff going on. And, probably the number one, not the biggest reason, but just one, and I just go through a few of the reasons. And looking back on it, especially because I've been in therapy now, been able to dig into my feelings and unpack some feelings and stuff. Looking back on that time, because I really didn't know how to express it at the time. But I think I felt very overwhelmed socially. Once I became, an alpha and I had some stuff going on, being an RA and just my friends, and like I had a lot of stuff going on at the time. And I just feel like I felt overwhelmed socially. I can say that now, but just back then I really couldn't express it. But I think that's kind of how I felt. I just had that feeling. So at the time I just felt, overwhelmed and kind of wanted to do something different. I almost wanted to just escape that environment so I could almost reset because I just felt like I had too much going on. That was like one of the main reasons that I left. Another one was money, to be quite frank. I was taking out a lot of loans. I think at the time I left, I was a junior. I had a 3.0, by the way, a 2.9, 3.0. So I was doing okay in business and accounting and everything. But I just, being the business major that I was thinking about the business decision of, I already owe 40K. By the time I finish, I probably owe 60 or 70. Does this really make sense, financially to keep doing it this way? Because I'm just racking up the debt. I'm probably going to get in the job market, making like 40, 50K. I don't even know if I get lucky. I'm going to want a house. I'm going to want a car. I started thinking about expenses down the future. And just financially, it just really wasn't adding up to me on kind of how I was going about getting my degree. That was another one. And not going to call nobody name specifically, but I did have, as we all did, had a couple of friends that are probably similar to Frank, 1 or 2 years older than us. I used to hang out with them a lot. I actually saw their journey of graduating and trying to find a job and stuff like that. And I saw a couple of people that we went to school with, kind of struggle and get their bachelor's and get their degree and struggle with that and seeing that as well and thinking about it from a business standpoint. It just really wasn't adding up. But probably the primary reason that I really did leave, and I never really voiced this too much to too many people, but I'll give you exclusive breaking news on your podcast.
Yeah, go ahead.
The primary reason, it was a personal decision for me. This was not something that was put on me, pressured on me. Nobody asked me to do it. It was something that I felt. At the time, my sister had just had her first child, my niece. And unfortunately, it was a situation where, the father wasn't involved too much. She wasn't being supported financially. She had actually moved to, I don't know if you remember, she had actually moved to Fayetteville to go to school, trying to get her degree. And man, she was struggling financially. And I remember one time, when I made up my mind to go to the Army was when I was watching my niece. She was still relatively young when she had her kid. And when she came to Fayetteville, there was a night when she wanted to go out. She went out with her friend, Kay Hardy. I don't know if you remember Kay Hardy.
Yep.
They wanted to go out. And they asked me to watch my niece. And so I did. And, going over there, just holding my niece and hanging out with my niece and kind of knowing how much my sister was struggling with money and financial aid and didn't have money and stuff. That's the moment I really made the decision to go to the Army, because I looked at my niece and I was like, without her father being involved that much, I'm pretty much the only man she'll have, right? This was my thought process. And like I said, nobody put this on me. Nobody asked this of me. But at that time, I made the decision, this little girl is not going to have a bad life because she don't have a man in her life. Yeah. And so at the time, I had a couple of years left before I would graduate. So I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this because I want to at least have some money that I can give my sister. I want to make sure my niece is okay. It's a decision that I made financially to kind of make sure that I could at least help out long enough to get my sister back on her feet. And then eventually I can circle back around, to finish my education with the GI Bill, right? I was aware of the GI Bill at the time, and I knew the education benefits and stuff. So it was kind of a twofold decision of, wanted to be able to support family, wanted to make sure my niece was okay, make sure my family members were okay at the time, because I saw a little bit of struggle. And for myself personally, I thought it was a good idea just to, make that leap, do a few years, get that GI Bill eligibility, and then kind of go back at that time. And, I like maybe to you and frat brothers and a lot of friends I had at the time, I really wasn't comfortable sharing all that type of stuff, and kind of thought it wasn't people's business, to be honest. So that was a big part of it. But that was really, a few reasons, but that was really the main reason why, I joined at the time, not only for myself for the GI Bill, but to take care of my family and make sure that they would be okay. So I made a decision, went and talked to a recruiter. And when I talked to the recruiter, based on my academic ability and what I had done and stuff, I scored really high on the entrance exams, was able to secure a pretty technical, high level job, get a big bonus, all this type of stuff. So financially, it just made sense. I really wanted to do it at the time, and I was ready for a change anyway. So I just went ahead and pulled the trigger and made that decision for those reasons.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. And hearing that, I'm like, I can completely understand at 20, 21 years old, why you might not be as comfortable being as vulnerable with whoever, while you're also processing this particular moment that is very personal, all right? And so the setting we had at the University of Arkansas, particularly being in a fraternity, is highly social, highly engaged. Like, everybody knew our chapter and knew us. And so being in that setting, I can see a need to be like, let me step back, because I got to figure out what's going to work for me. And so, even thinking about the moment when you left, I was like, yo, he really gone. Because it was like, you finished, Anwar finished, Frank finished. And it's like, boom, 3 people are gone, that quick. And so I appreciate your willingness to share that, not only with me, but with the audience here. Because I know it's meaningful as people are thinking about different choices in life, regardless of what age they are at or what's happening. People got stuff going on and they got to figure out, what am I going to do? What is needed in the moment for me to be able to continue at closest possible to peace, I can get, or joy, And so thinking about your time in the military, and you're doing it, I can imagine you're now in this career. Why decide to go back? What made you say, I want to start my education again? And how was the military providing the supports for you? You mentioned the GI Bill, but I imagine there's got to be some conversations you're having with people about your decision. So talk to us a little bit about the decision to go back to school.
Yeah, so real briefly, the military was a great experience for me. Started about 9 years. Went all over the place, got a lot of good experience, a lot of traveling and stuff like that. Ended up in my last duty station in the Illinois area. I met a young lady, started a family. So decided to get out of the military for good, kind of settle down in this area to be near my son and be near her and things like that. And that's a decision that was still to this day, don't regret. I really liked my military career and I kind of wanted to continue it, but I decided to leave for family reasons, and still don't regret that decision. It was a great decision. Spent a lot of time with my boys and everything. It's really great. One of the reasons I decided to go back to school, quite frankly, was because, once I got out of the military, I felt really limited on what my options were, just from job wise, career wise, anything like that. I was working odd jobs, wasn't making a lot of money. I was I was substitute teacher assistant. I got a job as a contractor in a Navy office. I was just doing all kind of stuff, just trying to make ends meet. And it just really wasn't going well. And that's kind of one of the things that, we can talk about, how a lot of veterans go through the same thing is when you're in the military, there's almost like this, I try to explain the military to people. The military really is like this protective bubble. It's like everything is taken care of for you. You make good money. You can live in the housing on a military base. They feed you. They give you money for food, the free healthcare, like all of the things that people out in what we call it, the civilian world, deal with on a regular basis. We don't have to deal with none of it, and we're making good money. So in our minds, life is easy. When I get out of the military, I'm gonna have the same life that I've been had because I'm a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get out, and the job that you get just don't pay as well. And
Mm-hmm.
by the way, the job that you get, you have to pay a full amount of taxes on it because when you're in the military, there's a certain part of your income that's like for housing. You
Yeah.
don't have to pay taxes on it. So you don't have to pay taxes on like 30% of your income, basically.
Woo, that's good.
It's a big tax break that I didn't even understand that was a benefit at the time. Like I just thought that was normal and blah, blah, blah. Right. So then I get out and this little measly 40, 50, 60K that I'm making, I'm paying full taxes on. I'm like, wait, hold on. Why am I paying this much in taxes? I was like literally confused. I was like a 30-year-old man that didn't understand the tax brackets in a regular civilian space. Right. So making all those type of adjustments was just so difficult. I felt like my job opportunities were really limited. So I kind of finally got back to the point of, one of the reasons I did join was to be able to eventually finish my degree or get advanced degrees and not have to pay for them. That was one of the reasons. So I buckled down, made that decision. The first degree that I went for was a master's degree in organizational leadership and administration. Found one kind of close to where I was living. So I did think that would help me, with my job prospects. Also, fortunately for us, the GI Bill nowadays actually produces a little bit of income. You get a little bit of a stipend with the GI Bill if you're full-time or close to full-time. So that's actually an incentive to utilize your GI Bill benefits for a lot of veterans. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was there too. So yeah, you can get anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,000 a month using your GI Bill as a veteran nowadays. So that financial incentive was there. The desire to get better qualifications, better education, so I could have, a better job was there as well. So that was the reason really I went back at that time.
What sparked your interest to pursue the doctorate? Because I can, some folks say, I now got my bachelor's, I got my master's degree, I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I've had some experience, I'm good. But you still decided to go back and get the doctoral degree. Like, what was the moment that sparked for you that said, this is what I want to do, and I need to look at options that are going to work for me? Also factoring in, I got an option that's going to help pay for this.
Yeah, exactly. So it was during my master's degree studies that I decided to do that because I had a big project I had to do. I had to find somebody to shadow or something like that. And I was working with this lady in the local park district. She was an administrator or board member or something like that. And as I had to mentor her and ask her questions and interview her and stuff like that. And as I was interviewing her, she basically, I think she had a master's or doctorate or something like that as well. She basically did this exercise with me to help me decide really what industry I wanted to work in. Because it was kind of her expertise to do stuff like that or something like that. So she gave me like this little quiz and asked me questions. And long story short, doing that exercise with her made me realize I really want to work in education. I really I thought it was K through 12. K through 12 was kind of a hit or miss, but then higher education kind of came up and I started looking into it and I was like, you know what? I think that's what I want to do. And she really helped me hone in on how they do those aptitude tests. That's basically what it was. It's like an aptitude test. And everything that I answered for her just pointed to education. It pointed to either K through 12 or higher education. So that's kind of how I figured out I wanted to work in higher education. And following my master's degree, that's kind of what made me decide to go for my doctorate because this better than anybody. It's very hard to break into the industry of higher education if you don't have the experience. Unless your mama used to work there and she can help you get a job. If you never worked in higher ed, it's gonna be a little tough to get that even an entry level position, right? So my thought process at the time was like, you know what? I'll just start a doctoral program in higher education. Since I don't have the experience, maybe that'll give me a chance, right? Plus, I have about 2 years worth of GI Bill eligibility remaining at the time. So I was able to do it for free. So about at least for a couple of years, I'd be working on my doctorate for free, And so that was really my process. I wanted to break into higher education to get a job. So I decided to pursue my doctorate in higher ed in the program and do it that way. So that's the reason that I decided to pursue my doctorate. And it actually worked out even more perfectly than I thought it would, because in the program, I met a young gentleman that was a director at the time at a university in Milwaukee, or got a director opportunity. And because we met in the program, and it was a veteran position that he needed to fill, and he knew of my background because we're in a program together. Basically, he told me to apply for the job and help me get in there. So it kind of worked out perfectly for what I was hoping. And originally that's the reason that I joined, just to give the reason that I pursued a doctorate, to give myself a better chance of breaking to higher education.
So you're bringing up something that I haven't really quite explored, which is not only just the GI Bill aspect of it and the eligibility and how long it lasts, but the ways in which people utilize their networks to be able to connect, particularly military. Like, I know folks in business world and education, but I don't know from the perspective of those who have served in the military, how they have leveraged that. So to hear that person then was like, I got opportunity here. Because I'm big on telling people the importance of utilizing your network, that your next opportunity is likely not on your resume, it's likely within your voice. And so using your voice, connecting with people, especially in graduate education, is often not tapped into enough. I think people get so focused on the degree that they miss, like, I'm with a group of people who are also doing this. And these people have experiences and backgrounds and connections and opportunities that I can tap into if I'm willing to just use my mouth and say something, use my voice to say something. I want to go back to the piece around the eligibility, like how long did your GI Bill last for? I'm not super familiar with the GI Bill, so enlighten us a little more in terms of, are there stipulations around what education you can pursue? Do you have to look at certain partner institutions? How does that work from your perspective?
Yeah, so real quick, just to touch on the point you was talking about, then I answer the question. As far as social capital, I want to give your audience a word. Social capital was, what we were speaking about as far as connections and things like that. That's one of the biggest reasons and I really love how you're always promoting graduate degrees and stuff. That was the most beneficial thing about pursuing a graduate degree to me: the social capital, the networks that you meet. I read a lot of case studies about what social capital is and how that's really it's kind of like the hidden disparity when we talk about racial gaps and stuff like that. Social capital that still exists within America that white people have, that minorities or non-white people don't have. That's really still the biggest difference, when you know someone that can give you a job, someone that has those connections. White people still have that for like 80 to 90% of everything. Anybody that's a CEO and executive, they're all white, and they're normally going to hire somebody to look like them. We all know those statistics. So I will say, as someone that doesn't come from a background like that, that was one of the most powerful things about, getting into grad school. Even in my master, when you're in a master's or doctorate program, you're in class with district managers. You're in class with managers, local managers, vice presidents. When I was in my doctorate program, I was in class with deans, tenured instructors, people that have been presidents before, vice president, all this type of stuff. So you're in the room. It brings you in the room with another level of social capital that normally you never would be able to access. So that's one of the really powerful things about getting your graduate degree, is putting you around that group of people to give you those opportunities. So that's something I wanted to just point out to the crowd, to your audience, to let them know that's one of the major benefits of graduate degrees. And then to answer your question about the GI Bill. So the GI Bill that's most prominent and prevalent today is the post 9/11 GI Bill. Chapter 33 is another name for it. And essentially, as long as you served enough full-time active duty time, you can qualify for it. I think you have to serve like at least 3 or 4 years or something like that. I don't know exactly the specifics, but if you do that, then you're eligible for up to, 36 to 48 months of basically tuition, they pay all your tuition. They also give you a stipend along with it. They give you money for books as well. And normally the 36 to 48 months is enough to get your 4-year bachelor's degree. That's kind of how it's designed, right?
Okay.
So there's really not too many limitations, as you would think, to what kind of school you can go to. You can go to a private school. You can go to for-profit school. As long as they're accredited to some degree, they don't even have to be like, there are certain, how accreditation works. There's certain accreditations that we prefer, but it doesn't even have to be HLC or whatever. It can be, even if it's a nationally accredited or regionally accredited, as long as it has a legitimate program and legitimate curriculum, you can utilize your GI Bill to do it. You can even utilize your GI Bill for trade schools. You can utilize your GI Bill to get a barber's license, cosmetology license. Like they're really, really flexible. The VA tries to be really flexible on training for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you're interested in doing, as long as you can find an institution that actually teaches it and has a curriculum or something like that, you want to be an auto mechanic, find your auto mechanic school, you can use your GI Bill. You know, you want to be a barber, the same thing. You want to, you know, be a plumber, the same thing. So as long as you find an institution of higher learning or a post-secondary, anything that's beyond high school, the GI Bill can cover it as long as it's not like in somebody's garage, you know,
or somebody's made up institution,
like in the back of somebody's house cutting hair or something.
They'll
cut. As long as it's a legitimate building, a legitimate space, you pretty much can use your GI Bill. So it's pretty flexible, and it's pretty great. And there's no limit to it. You can do master's degree. I did my doctorate. I got my doctorate. I did not pay 1 red cent for it. I didn't pay any money. So yeah, you can use all levels of higher education, almost any type of institution. You can use your military benefits for those institutions.
Man, I love it. And one of the things too is obviously the military provides you a level of training and expertise, not only for the job that you'll be doing with them, but even outside of that when you transition, you know. And you know, being in the military has its own difficulties and challenges. And education has its own difficulties and challenges. What do you draw from, or if anything at all, the military provided you with that aided you or helped you as you decided to navigate either of your graduate degrees? Like, how did the military have an impact on that, if it did at all?
Yeah, so I would say the military impacted my journey to my graduate degrees the most. And I'm gonna use this word intentionally because I think that the military gave me a lot of grit. It gave me a lot of determination. It taught me how to push through things when things got difficult, almost to a fault. Sometimes you'll find with military people, almost to a fault, we're almost too determined to do stuff. But the military really gave me a certain amount of grit and determination that I do believe is needed to finish grad school, especially when you have family, especially when you're working, especially when you got a lot of stuff going on, depending on what point of your life you're at. That's probably the best thing that did, because as you know all too well, man, I don't know how your journey was if you went straight through, but even, you know, master's was pretty good. I didn't take any breaks in my master's program. Doctorate, man, I stopped a couple of times, I quit a couple of times, I came back a couple of times, taking 1 class at a time, 2 classes, like it was all over the place. So it took me about 6 years to get a 3-year, doctoral degree. So it was pretty tough, but I had that determination. I had that grit to get it done. And I really do believe I got a lot of that personality from the military, because, you know, when you're in the military, you don't have a choice to quit. There's no options of quitting. You always got to push through. You always got to tough it out. So I was really able to take that and apply it to my studies. And I think ultimately that's what was able to help me be successful.
Yeah. And, you know, grad school not easy. I tell people that, like, it's very doable, but you don't know what it's like until you're actually in it. And so there are challenges that you face throughout this, and you mentioned kind of starting and stopping throughout your time of working on your doctoral degree. Were there any other challenges or things that you had to learn as you were pursuing this? Because for me, I could think about academic writing. Like the first time I got feedback, we had this requirement. We had this requirement that within our program, we had to do what they call the publishable paper. We had to design a study that we went through the whole process, IRB, all of that, and through the entirety as almost like a preparatory tool for the dissertation.
Yeah.
I will never forget getting in that room doing a defense. I've experienced physical assault. I've experienced verbal assault. I've never experienced anything like that. And that's not to scare people. It's just, you don't know what you don't know. Them people read me up and down like I was a library. I felt like the most clueless, idiotic person to that point. And it's like, if this is what this part of this is, how am I gonna get to exams? How am I gonna get to dissertation? I tell people I don't truly think I understood research until I finished my dissertation. Until it was done, everything was done, and I got a chance to go back and have a little break. That's when I really understood everything that was taught to me. But in that moment, I did not. So
just trying to get through it. Just trying to get to the next chapter. That's all you're trying to do.
You're just trying to get to the next thing.
You got to get to the next chapter.
What are other challenges you had to face throughout your doctoral journey?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much related to the military it was or not, but same for me. The academic writing, APA. I don't know if y'all read part of APA. Like, APA was a choice of formatting for all of my classes in the school that I went to. So really, just learning. I mean, coming from the military, well, the way we write in the military is I just had to forget everything because military formatting and stuff is just completely different. So it was just a relearning of almost basic English and grammatical stuff, how to write paragraphs, how to have continuation, how to, 1 or 2, doesn't need to be 3 sentences, 4 sentences in a paragraph, just basic stuff, learning the basics and kind of building up from there and just kind of working with your mentors, like you said, on how to put everything together so that it flows. My biggest word that all of my mentors used to use with me, teaching me how to write academically was flow. It's like your paper had to flow. You can't just it can't be chunky where like chapter 1 seems one thing, chapter 2 is like seems all complete. It has to flow together. Sentences have to connect, paragraphs have to connect, chapters have to connect. So it was like that was the biggest learning curve for me, making sure everything flowed together. And it was such a big learning curve. And I'm just like you, man. I remember, there's, like you said, it's probably nothing scary. You say we both have physical assault and verbal abuse, and I was been through some pretty tough stuff in the military, man. But there is nothing like being in front of 3 to 4 highly intelligent, highly educated, doctoral level people that their only job in the moment is to grill you and make sure you know what you're talking about this stuff that they've been doing for 30 years.
Yep.
Like there's nothing, I don't care what nobody say, there's nothing more intimidating than that because, and you probably know this, even depending on who you have, they can make it as difficult or as easy for as they want to. Like if they really want to make it difficult on you and make it difficult for you to pass, they could easily do it, just based on the questions they want to ask or based on the questions they could ask. Right. So it's really nerve-wracking, and a lot of them do have somewhat of that academic hazing mindset that I have to adjust to, because I used to get real bad about I call them the academic hazers that really will put you through a ringer just to make you sweat a little bit. I used to think they were picking on me and stuff, but it's a real mindset of, look, man, you want a doctorate, this is the top of the top. You got to perform. You got to be able to do it this way. You got to be able to get through this. I was able to get through it. So you just got to do it. So that was a challenge definitely to, adjust to, because it's just, as you know, graduate level stuff is different. It's not specifically task oriented. It's not like, hey, here's a topic, write a paper. Yeah. It's just so many levels beyond just writing a paper that you said it perfectly and you don't even understand all the layers until you finish. You just get through it. It's almost like this huge 1,000-piece puzzle, right? You don't see the whole picture until you put the last piece in the puzzle, right? So it's kind of the same thing with writing this big dissertation of, man, it's just all these pieces I'm putting together. I think that chapter 3 sounds nice. I don't know what I'm going to say in chapter 4. I'm going to say the same thing. And now chapter 5, I got to close it all out. I said this 100 times already. How am I going to say it different in chapter 5? It's like you're just going through this almost feel like a hamster on a wheel, mentally, of like how to say this again, how to reiterate this. And so that was just an ongoing challenge. I don't know, I can't say that I even really mastered it. I think I did well enough to get through it, obviously, and successfully pass my defense. But that learning curve was so big that, it definitely was a challenge. But luckily, stand here today that I can say I got through it.
Yeah, we got through it, brother. You get through it. There's a reason why the number of people who enter and finish is small.
Super small.
It is not beyond ability. It is resiliency. Yes. It is consistency. It's being willing to just be like, you know what? Even if this don't make sense to me, it makes sense to them. And
I gotta do it the way they say. I gotta do it the way they say.
And that's life. There's some things that don't make sense to another person, but it makes sense to this person. And if they're in the position of authority or power, then I gotta, you know what I'm saying? Just go with the flow with that. Now,
and I say this to people. To people, man. This is what sounds really bad, man. But I tell people this all the time. Because anybody that asks me if they're interested in a graduate degree, I say to them, if you have a family, you need to understand you will have to neglect your family to successfully finish this. Yep. Because of the hours that it takes, the hours you got to sit in the library, the class you got to go to. You need to have a conversation. You need to have that understanding with your family members of, hey, man, oh, sorry about that.
You good?
Boy calling me. You need to have that conversation with your family members about, man, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time away. I'm going to be at the library. I'm going to be studying. I got class. I got this thesis. I got this dissertation. It's a real tough. That's a real tough thing for people to wrap their head around, and that's a real tough thing for family members to accept sometimes, because it's like, hey, man, I'm doing this. I feel like I'm doing this alone. You're always in the library, but that's something that definitely for all your audience members that are, considering that and thinking about that, really think about that and have that conversation and make sure, your family members or friends or loved ones or anybody that if you are getting ready to go on that journey, make sure they understand. Obviously, neglect is kind of a strong word. You don't really want to use that word, but there will be a lot of time away where you may feel that way. You may feel neglected, but just encourage people that, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's for a good reason. You really have to have that strong mindset to get through it, as a unit, if you have people in your life that are supporting you through something like this.
Yeah. The work I do now when I am meeting with a potential client, especially if they have a family, is I encourage them to have a conversation with them. And I give them here's some of the things to discuss. Here's some opportunity to ask questions. I've had kids be on the call with me, with mom or dad, because they just want to understand. And I'm now more than ever encouraging them to, even at the inception, which is really the application piece of it, find ways to integrate your family into this. Find ways to help them to be a part of this process so that when you need to go, it won't feel unfamiliar. Start carving out the time now. This is why I always recommend at least 2 to 3 days a week. If you can do 3 to 5, super. But 2 to 3 days a week, spend an hour away focusing on reading, because you've got to get yourself in the habit of doing the reading and the writing, but you've also got to orient everybody else like, yo, I'm gone to do this thing. One of the last things I want to talk to you about is working at the community college level. So you had this career in the military, you've got 3 degrees, and now you're at the community college. What sparked that? You talked to us about the opportunities provided in Milwaukee. Did you ever see yourself working in a community college? How has the degrees aided in your ability to support students, especially with your role in student success? How has all of these things combined helped you in the work that you do now?
Well, it helped me a lot, because when I first figured out that I wanted to work in higher education, I didn't have 2-year community colleges. Like I didn't have that as my goal. I just figured maybe a 4-year, maybe a place like University of Arkansas. That's kind of what I was thinking, right? But upon a lot of my research and a lot of my studies, once I started learning the difference between community college and private schools and public schools and 4-year and for-profit and all that, community colleges probably really stood out to me the most, just because of the population of student that typically exists there. Yeah. As you know, at community colleges, you're going to have a lot of first-generation students that don't have parents that went to college. You're going to have a lot of Black students. You're going to have a lot of Hispanic students. You're going to have a lot of white students as well that may not come from advantaged backgrounds. You may have some low-income white students, low-income Black. It's pretty much what I like to call disenfranchised students. That's my favorite word. The community college tends to serve a lot of disenfranchised communities and disenfranchised students. And that's really, really where my heart lies as far as, helping people get their education. When you're talking about the 4-year schools, such as, University of Arkansas, Northwestern, all these prestigious schools, a lot of the students there come from good families. Their parents got money, mom and dad paying for school. And so it's not like they don't need help or college isn't a challenge for them, but they definitely don't need as much help as, the kid that grew up in an orphanage and is homeschooled on orphanage scholarship and don't know anybody and don't have family support, right? So those are the type of students I really enjoy helping because, I identify with that a little bit, being a Black man that went to a predominantly white school, that's been to the military, that's been all over the place. I have half Hispanic children now. I just feel like all of my experiences and all of the things that I am, my identity, helps me relate a lot with the student population of community colleges. And it helps me a lot when I'm engaging with them. It helps me a lot understanding what they need and what they don't even know that they need. A lot of times when they come into my office now, when I have to advise them, they come in a little flustered and they'll say, "Oh my, I'm just so new to this. I don't know anything about college. I don't know what to do." I remember having that feeling, I really did. Even though I had, my mom was a teacher. She went to school and had a 4-year degree. She wasn't necessarily, she was kind of a hands-off. She was one of those, my mom was one of those, once you're 18, I don't know what you got to do, but you got to get up out of here, moms. So even when she dropped me off at Fayetteville, man, she pulled up to the curb. I took out all my stuff in Reed Hall because I was in one of those, what was it, like a pre-fall summer programs going for.
Oh, yeah, like in a bridge program.
Yeah, bridge program. That's what it's called. I was in a bridge program for engineering. So, and we were staying in Reed Hall for the summer, man. She dropped my stuff off. She didn't even come inside the room. She just, all right, good luck. Got back in the car and drove off, right? So even though she was a college graduate and everything, I almost felt like a first generation because she wasn't really there. She didn't really stay to help me in that. So I just kind of had to figure out the campus and figure out everything on my own. Financial aid, how to pay for school, all that type of stuff. And that almost kind of goes back to why I joined the military because, I just almost felt like I was playing catch up the whole time I was in college. From the time she dropped me off, and from the time I left, I almost felt like I was just playing catch up, trying to figure things out, not really knowing what's going on, not understand how much money I'm going to owe. Do I got to pay it back? What is financial aid? What's a Pell Grant? I don't know what that is. I was going through all those things. I felt like I was going through all those things that typical community college, typical first generation students go through. So I feel like I connect really well with that feeling and I can help those students and guide those students and really teach them those important pieces of information that I know they need. So just my background and all my experiences that way help me connect with the community college setting, so I think it's a good fit for me. I mean, I'm not going to say I never would venture over to a 4-year or anything like that, but I don't necessarily seeing it be something that I want to do. I really like the community college space because I really think it helps the population that I like to help out the most.
Yeah, I tell people that teaching at community and technical is different than the 4-year. When I was in the last year of my PhD, this interesting. In order to pay off my engagement ring, I was one of the ones who bought an engagement ring and could not afford it.
Yeah.
In order to do this, a frat brother of ours, he reached out to me. It's like, I think three people in our grad chapter worked at the community college, technical college, Athens Technical College in Athens, Georgia. And they were like, "Hey man, we got these classes that you could teach." I was like, "I can't do a 16-week, but I can do an 8-week." They're like, "Cool, it's 2 days a week, but it's intense. Like you gotta be here at 9:00." So there were times I would get up at like 4:00 in the morning, leave North Carolina at my sister-in-law's house to drive back, pull up in class right off the highway, teach my class. And it just was a different demographic. And to a degree, West, I enjoyed it more because they didn't come to it with the level of privilege and expectation and arrogance. Now, some of them definitely like, "Hey, listen, where you at?" Some of them I got to pull up on you outside of class. I see you at the grocery store. Let's talk and have a conversation. But I love that, because then I had the best of that space to teach, but then I had the best of the 4-year experience, which was completely different.
Right.
And then I lived in the community. So I had like 3 different experiences while pursuing the PhD. I want to end today's discussion with the last question for you, which is, what's your advice to anyone who is a veteran who's considering if graduate school should be in their pursuits, if it's of value? What would you tell them as they're thinking about their decision about what's next in their career? and strongly considering, hey, I got this GI Bill, I think I want to use it, what would you tell them?
Well, I mean, the most simple thing that I can say is if you're a veteran out there and you're thinking about going to school, just please utilize your GI Bill. I did my dissertation about veterans and higher education, and I forget the exact number, but it's very low. Only like 20 to 30% of veterans that are eligible to use a GI Bill actually use it. It's
Wow.
crazy. It's crazy low of veterans that actually utilize the benefits that are out there. So look into it. Go to va.gov, apply for education benefits and get your certificate of eligibility and go to school, go find a school, go talk to a representative at a college. They'll walk you through the whole process. It's not as hard as you think. It's not as scary as you think. You have a lot of resources out there. Even the college that I went to in a lot of the states that we can work in, a lot of the states have state legislation, state laws that say college campuses have to have spaces specifically designed for veterans. So there can be like a veteran resource center where you can go meet other veterans and other students that are veterans and make you feel way more comfortable. All the research that I did about veteran students said that those spaces are incredibly important for veteran students because outside of those spaces on the college campus, we just don't feel comfortable. We don't feel comfortable around 18-year-olds. We don't feel comfortable around 30-year-olds that were never in the military. But those spaces do exist on the campus where you can go talk to other veterans, talk to them that have been in school. So yeah, don't be afraid to go to a college, try to find out what's available, utilize your benefits because a lot of times advice I will give them is don't always assume that what you did in the military is going to translate well in the civilian world and you're going to be able to have a good job because of it, because a lot of times it won't. You really have to reset yourself and retool yourself to be successful in the civilian world. Some of us are lucky. Some of us, I learned Korean. I learned some other stuff. Maybe I could have used that in the civilian world. But a lot of the things in the military are so military specific, it would never really translate to the civilian world where you would be able to have a career. If you were just somebody that, I don't know, was an infantry person and all you did was look for bombs and stuff all day. That probably exists with the FBI or something, but how many jobs are you really going to, find looking for bombs like you did in the military? So just understand that your military experience will be respected, but you need to re-educate yourself, retool yourself to be able to get some kind of qualifications in the civilian world because it's going to be way different. We hear a lot of, we support veterans and we want to help veterans get jobs, and we hear those things we're in and we think it's going to be easy. But the last and main piece of advice when veterans get out and want to get a career and everything, you have to know that this one thing, that there's a difference between getting a job and getting a good job, right? There's a lot of jobs out there. You can easily, as a veteran, I could easily go to Walmart and, work in the backpacking or at a meat packing plant. They trying to hire veterans, paying $13 an hour. Yeah, getting a job like that is real easy because they want to hire some veterans, but you don't want that. You want a good job, a good career, something that's actually gonna, pay you decent and give you benefits for your family that you might have started when you was in the military. So in order to do that, in order to get a good job, a good career, you have to be educated. You have to retool yourself. You have access to free school, man. There's nothing better than free school, and you can get paid for it. So just go look for it, utilize it. And if you're able to do that, you can be successful and have a good career. I've been able to do okay so far by utilizing that path. And I just would encourage, a lot of people to do the same thing, especially veterans that are eligible for those benefits.
You said it all. Thank you, Dr. Walker, for joining us. For those of you all who are watching this on YouTube or live, you can contact Dr. Wesley Walker at the information below. And I appreciate him greatly for sharing this. I learned a lot. A whole lot that I just didn't know, man. So I really, appreciate it. If you are ever looking for past episodes of Beyond the Bachelor Show or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit our website at applatograduateschool.com/Beyond the Bachelors. You can see all of our previous guests, learn more about the show and the content coming ahead. I thought this was going to be a really, really good episode, but it turned out to be really great. So I appreciate you today because there's a lot of people who are considering this, who are partnered with, connected with veterans. and your journey is going to help provide some advocacy for people. With that being said, I hope everybody has a great night. And if any way we can be of assistance or provide support to you, please don't hesitate to go to the website, applytograduateschool.com. Lots of stuff on there, a lot of things coming here in 2025. Y'all have a